Oh, God's good. God's good. I gave up on the other message that I tried to preach for 4 Sundays. So I've got a new one, and I'm not going to be able to preach it this morning because we're going to have communion in just a few minutes. But I do want to just scratch the surface for just a moment. There's a huge difference in believing Jesus and trusting Jesus. I find that a lot more people believe than trust. Trust takes action. So does belief. But trust takes action. If I really trust something. I don't know how many of you have ever been on one of them. See, Susan's not here. She knows what I'm going to say before I say it. So she usually finishes my sentences for me. Don't you just love that, guys? I do, because a lot of times I have brain freeze and I'm not even eating ice cream. Well, zip line. How many of you been on a zip line? You know, yeah. Your first thought is this thing going to hold me? Am I going to be the first one that does the Tarzan thing? I remember when my mom and dad and Susan and I went to Stone Mountain. Back when I was a kid, we went there several times, and they didn't have that trolley going up on it. You just had to walk it. And we were walking up, my sister and I and my mom and dad. I was probably 8 years old, something like that. And we were struggling to get up this, and some idiot come driving a Jeep by us. Dad asked for a ride, and they wouldn't give him one. But the last time we were there, they had that gondola thing going up on it. And Susan and I walked up. And Mom and Dad waited a good while, and then they rode up. And how many of you ever been to Stone Mountain and ridden the gondola? About 3 of us. Wow, I thought there'd be more than that. It goes up, but then it goes up. And Susan and I were standing there when it went up. And my mom and dad were right in front. And I could hear my mom saying, "Ooh!" And her eyes was this big around. She didn't trust it. I don't blame her. I rode down it. I didn't trust it either. They said, "Oh, we've done this 100 times. Never had a single problem." And I said, "Yep, this is the first. If it's going to happen, guess what? It's going to happen to me." I had great faith, but I didn't have great trust. To trust Him takes us to a different dimension than to believe Him. Because just believing, we really don't have to act. But if we're really going to trust, we have to act. That's the way that trust is proved. So we have a story here. Something tremendous. John chapter 4, verses 6 through 10. Jesus is waiting for an appointment. He has diverted a trip the long way around so that he could make this appointment. This is the time. This is the moment. And it starts off, Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was tired from his journey. he sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food, and the Samaritan woman said to him, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For the Jews do not associate with Samaritans. And in the border it says, or do not use dishes Samaritans have used. Jesus answered her and said, "If you knew the gift of God and who it was that asked you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." My aim and my goal in this message is to make a distinction about trust. A trust of Jesus and a trust of his Holy Spirit. Pentecostals, people of the Spirit, we have a language that gives the impression that we are led by the Spirit. But let the Holy Spirit deviate a little bit from our norm, even slightly from what you and I have learned, and suddenly chaos breaks out in our heart, in our mind, in our church. Oh, is this God? Is this not? I can't do that. And we start worrying, am I on the right track? Am I off? And all the time the Holy Spirit is saying, trust me, this is the way I want you to go. This is what I want you to do. But I've never done that before. I've never gone this way before. Trust brings us to that place to where no matter what the Holy Spirit is saying, we will obey. We will launch out in the deep, or we will step on the waves. We will break bread and believe all at his word. Whatever he says, we will face ridicule, laughter. You'll be called crazy by your friends. When you really trust him and move at his command, you'll do things differently. And that's scary. Trust me. Good preaching today has deteriorated down to be something that somebody is saying that we already believe. We love to hear new things, but we don't want to do them. We just want to hear them. We love when new ground is broken, but tell me what I already know, because that's easier. Spirit-filled believers will do exactly what the Holy Spirit wants them to as long as they agree with it. But we have last choice in the matter. So when something that comes hot off the press from God and it's delivered by the Holy Spirit to our heart, to our mind, to our spirit, and God is asking something more, go where we've never been before. Do what we've never done before. See what we've never seen before. Believe what we've never believed before. As long as it lines up with the Word, And it's not too far out there. You and I are expected to trust and obey. Remember that song? Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. So there comes that moment when that something more that we're being asked to do is trust. Nobody had ever walked on water until Jesus did it. And then Peter did it. It took a lot of trust for him to step out on nothing but one word, come. Little four-letter, come. And he stepped out of the boat. He walked on the waves. And the skeptic would say, yeah, but he sunk. No, but he walked. I hadn't seen any of us go that far. How many steps did he take? I don't know. It may have been 10, 12. It may have been 3 or 4. I've never took 3 steps. I've tried. I conjured up all the faith I could, and I was going to walk on water. All I did was get my feet wet. I tried. I stepped off the end of a dock. I even sat down on the dock and slid off because I thought maybe it was all the weight all of a sudden when I stepped off. So I sat down and just eased off. The same result every time. I don't know if you've ever tried that or not, but I was going to do it. Wasn't my time. When I get in glory, I'm walking on water because there's a sea of glass. And I'm going to walk across that sea of glass if the Lord will allow me to. Something more is going to be asked. You and I want to examine everything to death. We want to look at it until it molds. Have you ever had some piece of new fruit that's set in the refrigerator until it was molded? Oh, that happens, yeah. First time I ever saw a star fruit. It sat in my refrigerator until it was molded, and then I couldn't eat it. Didn't make me sad. I just threw it away. I didn't have to eat it. Never tasted it before, but I didn't want it. So Susan brought another one home. I said, did you buy this? She said, no, I picked it. I said, you stole it? I can't eat stolen fruit. She said, no, I picked it from Miss O'Brien. She said I could have one because I told her what happened to the last one I brought home. Then she proceeds to cut it. Sometimes the Lord will back you into a corner. You know what? I love star fruit. I went half my life, I wouldn't eat one. And then I tasted it. And now I love them. Just the right tartness, just the right sweetness. It's excellent. Now Susan don't like them, so I can't have them. She loved them until I loved them, and then she don't like them anymore. We want to look at things and we want to, this, and we start projecting on it. No, it won't be any good. It's almost like kids and avocados. Ugh, I don't want none of that. You ask a kid, try some green beans. No, I ain't having no green beans. Have you ever ate one? No. Not going to either. My dad was like that about boiled squash. Oh, I didn't like it either. but he would always make me eat it. Anything that was on our table, you had to take at least a spoonful. And Mom loved boiled squash, so we had it a lot. And she would put a dollop on my plate. And Dad would sit there and say, eat that. After I was grown and married, we were at Mom and Dad's. Susan was helping her cook. She was making boiled squash, but there was only a little bit. And I said something about, you and Dad really like that, don't you? No, Dad doesn't like it. And I said, what do you mean he doesn't like it? He won't eat it. I said, what do you mean he won't eat it? She said, you never knew, did you? He'd wait until I ate mine and got up from the table, then he'd scrape his back in the bowl. Yeah. I wanted to lay hands on him. But he's bigger than me. He was only 5'8", but he was bigger than me. Listen, and I'm going to close with this, and we're going to have communion. This woman that came to the well was suddenly taken out of the realm that she had become accustomed to. And she was thrust into a brand new place. And it was a place of trust. This John 4 woman, she faced to face with trust. Will I trust this man that's saying these things? And she came to the place where she finally ran into the city and said, come see a man. Anytime you trust Jesus and move on what he's telling you to do, it'll always end up with you telling somebody else, come see a man that told me all things. And that's where we're going to go. I gave you a very short synopsis of it. But right now, we need to move into communion very, very quickly.